Hi there, this is Solitary Ronan from Solitary Ronan Films, and welcome to part 27 of my Joseph Losey season. Today we're going to have a look at 1979's Don Giovanni, which is a filmed version of Mozart's opera. So obviously no actors here, just opera singers, who of course are used to performing on stage. Allegedly Joseph Losey had never seen Don Giovanni, actually the opera on stage. This was a commission, one of Joseph Losey's more job films. It was made for 7 million. The budget ballooned because of really bad weather. Shot on location in Italy, which gives it a certain grandiosity, which works really well. Allegedly on IMDb it made a whopping $9,500 off a 7 million budget. So not one of Losey's most successful films. And again, it's another example of Losey trying to push the barrier, the envelope of trying to get art or art house films a wider audience. He's quoted as saying, we've got to try and get opera to people who wouldn't normally watch opera or listen to opera. If you're not familiar with the story of Don Giovanni, it's basically about a womanizing aristocrat that kills his father-in-law essentially, and then goes on the run and is followed by the grieving daughter, her fiance, and various other people, until he's visited by the ghost of the guy he murdered. Very much a bit like Hamlet and a bit like Macbeth. And he's given a chance to repent or go to hell, literally. This is a very interesting film, not one I would necessarily recommend, but I'll go into those reasons. One of the reasons it didn't do very well is because the sound mix was apparently terrible. Dolby had come out in 1976, and the producers of the film thought it would be perfect for opera, but the recording equipment that they used for the film weren't suited to Dolby, so the sound mix when the film came out was absolutely dreadful apparently. But it was redone from the original recordings in 2006 by Gaumont. This is the second sight 3-disc DVD set, which is actually really good. The print's pretty good as well. You can get it in Blu-ray. So this is 3 discs, Act 1 and Act 2. Get their own disc because it's almost 3 hours long. And the third disc is for special features, which are very good special features. It's Losey and Don Giovanni. So this is a French documentary about Don Giovanni, which gives you a background, and the Sound Odyssey 1978 to 2006 is a really good piece on the kind of reconstruction and renovation of the sound, to actually get it back to, or get it to 5.1 and Dolby surround sound. But the film itself, it is beautifully shot. The locations are absolutely wonderful. Absolutely beautiful Italian countryside, lovely stately homes. So you get a real sense of time and place. The opera singers including Kiri di Kanawa even, famous singer from New Zealand. They're all fantastic. The production design is wonderful. The costumes are amazing. The film itself, you can see, costumes are wonderful. But the film itself just doesn't really work for me. Again, this is going to come down to taste. So it's a film where I haven't really rated it very well, just for my own taste. But it's not, I mean, I grew up in a house listening to Mozart, so it's not as if I don't like Mozart, it's not as if I'm opposed to opera, but if you're expecting Don Giovanni to be like Tales of Hoffmann by the Archers, it's not that. Yeah, it's a strange film. The music to me, I'm probably going to upset a lot of Mozart fans, but the music to me is fairly nondescript. It's certainly pleasant, there's nothing wrong with it, but there's nothing that really stands out. The subtitling is fine, but there's also parts where there doesn't seem to be subtitles, which doesn't help. But I don't know whether it's just the story to me is not that interesting, and yes, you can look at it as, well, it's political, it's about the death of the aristocrats, it's kind of pre-revolutionary, about the changing of the guard. It's obviously about, being sinful, you're going to be punished. It has more stuff with the death of fathers and father figures that appears in quite a lot of Losey films. So it's a well-made film, well-acted film, looks really good. Again, the music is fine, but to me there's nothing that really stands out about it. So it's a film that I might never watch again, even though I don't particularly hate it. There's nothing to be super critical of it. I think this is going to come down to, as I say, personal taste. If you're a Mozart fan, if you love Don Giovanni, then obviously you're going to love the film. There's plenty of 5-star ratings for the film on Letterboxd, for example. But just for me, it just doesn't have a spark to it. Again, I think, as with musicals, I think you've got to have, not to be a heathen about it, but you've got to have good songs. And for me, the music and the vocals in this, it's fairly nondescript. Again, there's nothing unpleasant about the music, but there's also, for me at least, there's just nothing that stands out. There's no, again, I am a heathen, but there's no big hits, if you like, in Don Giovanni for me. So the music is just there, and it's perfectly pleasant, and it passes the time, but it's certainly not a film that I would particularly say, oh yeah, you must go out and get a copy of this, you must see this. Because again, if you're a fan of Mozart, if you're a fan of opera, if you're a fan of Don Giovanni, you're going to buy this. And if you're not, it might convert you, but it certainly didn't convert me. Now, not to compare it to Tales of Hoffmann, obviously, because Losey and Powell are two different animals. But Tales of Hoffmann has Bacca role in the Venice sequence, whereas Don Giovanni really just does not have a standout track. There's some standout scenes, certainly. There's some wonderful costumes, as I say. The masked characters are quite wonderful. There's a character, the Valley in Black, um, which originally Losey wanted Rudolph Nureyev to play, but that didn't work out. And that is an addition to the film. He's not in the opera, and that's almost like an observer. That's almost like the guy sitting at the fire in 9 out of the 10 Decalogue episodes by Shazlovsky. It's more just an overseer. Again, you can make your own mind up about what that character represents. When the ghost of the murdered father-in-law appears, that's very effective. The ending is very effective. So there's things to like in the film, but it's just one of those films that didn't grab me, and just left me with yeah, that was okay, but I can't imagine ever watching it again. So it's a strange one, but it's also, it kind of sums up Losey in a sense of the kind of trying to push the envelope, perhaps being a little bit naive, certainly being stubborn, again with the sound mix kind of being undone by forces out with himself. You know, I've told plenty of stories of him arguing with producers and DPs, and in this case, you know, they took 3 attempts to do the sound mix, so by the time they released it, it still had terrible sound. I mean, it sounds amazing now, certainly, but obviously it's a bit late for Joseph Losey. But yeah, it's a curiosity in the catalogue. So if you are curious, you can certainly pick up relatively cheaply. I mean, I guess it is a very nice set, by Second Sight. So when you can pick this up relatively cheaply if you are interested. But again, as I say, it's one of those films that it's going to be personal taste. Not that every other film's personal taste, but it's not a bad film. It's just one that didn't really get my juices flowing, particularly the way other Losey films have. So thanks very much for watching part 27, my Losey. I've just got one more film to go, and then I will move on to another series that I think I first teased a year ago, and I still haven't got around to doing it. And then hopefully when I move, I'll get back to actually doing more series. But thanks very much for watching. Please let me know on your feelings on Don Giovanni if you have seen it. And hopefully you'll join me again for the final part of my Joseph Losey season. This is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, saying farewell.